Hello everyone, I am the Bandit Kirby, and welcome to my channel, the Commander Tavern. The Commander Tavern is a channel dedicated to my favorite Magic the Gathering format. Commander Cube Draft is a mini-series where I'm going to be talking about everything Cube Draft, but related specifically to the Commander format. Throughout this series, I'm going to be explaining the process behind how I brewed my own Commander Cube, as well as pointers on how to build your own. I'll also be reviewing and analyzing many topics and aspects when it comes to building your own cube. In this episode in particular, I'll be discussing how to draft your Commander Cube similarly to how Commander Legends was drafted. If you like any of the cards I'll be mentioning throughout the video, please consider using my TCG Player affiliate link when purchasing those cards. You can find that link down in the description. It'll really help out the channel. The best way you can help support the channel is with my Patreon. For just $1, patrons get early access to certain videos on YouTube. In fact, patrons got a chance to see this video earlier. You can also support my channel for free by simply liking, subscribing, and sharing, which also helps out a lot. You can join my Discord server for free if you want to join the Commander Tavern community. All pertinent links are down in the description. Alright, let's get back to the episode. Since this mini-series is meant to show different aspects of drafting a Commander Cube, if you want to know what a cube is and how it pertains to Commander, I suggest you first watch the first episode, which you can find in the link above. In it, I explain what a cube is, how the deck building process occurs when constructing legit Commander decks from a drafted pool of cards, and cards you drafted but don't include it in your deck will by default become your sideboard. In this episode, I discuss another way to draft your cube, differently to how I showed in that first episode I just mentioned. In that episode, I showed how to draft a Commander Cube in 3 parts, in order to make it easier for cube curators and drafters alike to draft a Commander Cube if the goal is to build a bona fide Commander deck. However, in this episode, I show how to further enhance the drafting experience by slightly increasing the difficulty. That way you're not holding the player's hands as a Commander Cube curator. If your playgroup is more seasoned, then you can actually have a better time drafting a Commander Cube in this way. And most important of all, you'll all still be able to draft a bona fide 100 card singleton Commander deck following all the color identity deck building restrictions. From my experiences playtesting my Commander Cube with my playgroup back in Puerto Rico, they actually preferred this method way more after having drafted the cube the first way. Experiences might vary between playgroups, but once a playgroup gets the gist of it, it's definitely a great way to have fun playing Commander, and you might find this to be the ideal way to go about it as well. Alright, with that lengthy introduction out of the way, how is it that we can design a cube to be drafted like Commander Legends? Well, that's the great part. You don't have to make any changes to your cube. It's all about how you seed your boosters. I suggest using the Commander Legends formula, but with further consistency. So you'd be making booster packs with 2 potential commanders, 3 cards of each monocolor color identity, and then either 3 colorless color identity or 3 multicolor color identity. So if you have an 8-player pod, each quote-unquote round of booster packs will have had players draft a total of 16 potential commanders, 24 mono white cards, 24 mono blue cards, 24 mono black cards, 24 mono red cards, 24 mono green cards, 12 colorless cards, and 12 multicolored cards. That way the draft is balanced and not pushed in any given direction, making the draft experience otherwise lopsided. You can also still have a great experience drafting a Commander Cube with 4 players, since you then have half of these amounts after each round of drafting a quote-unquote booster pack per player. Since my cube is designed with 160 potential commanders, 760 bulk cards, and 160 mana fixing lands, I can still draft it this way just as before. I simply have to adjust how I see the boosters compared to that first episode. Additionally, in order to fully go with the Commander Legends draft experience, make sure your cube has 2 copies per player of the Prismatic Piper, just in case anyone didn't draft a viable commander, which should rarely happen, or if they just wanted to draft their 2 favorite colors but didn't draft a commander in those colors. That way, after they're done drafting, they can get 2 copies of the Prismatic Piper just as you would after drafting Commander Legends. Don't include them in your draft pool, keep them separate like you would any dungeon cards, tokens, counters, basic lands, etc. As for the actual Commander Legends style draft, I learned how to seed boosters this way on Cubecobra, so I can just go there and show you what I mean in real time and thus explain it better that way. Alright, so here we have my cube on Cubecobra. So notice that just like in the previous episode, or I should say the first episode, my Commander Cube, and this is the online version of it, has been separated in the same exact way as when I showed in the first video. So notice here we have the first block of the cube, which is just the 160 potential commanders. Then we have the mono white cards, the mono blue cards, mono black cards, mono red cards, mono green cards, the colorless cards, and the multicolor cards, which are all part of the bulk. And then we have the mana fixing lands. So that still holds true in such a way that you can still potentially, if you come here to the playtest page, you can still draft it like I showed in the first episode where we have the 3-stage draft format. However, in this particular episode, since I'm showing how to draft it similar to Commander Legends, 4 of those packs are seeded just like Commander Legends, but I still have the final pack as a land pack like I explained in the first video. This is because I don't want players having to choose between picking a commander or picking their cards or picking mana fixing, because if you have a multicolored commander, it'll be a bit harder to get a really balanced deck, especially with 100 cards. So that's still true. You can also draft my commander with this way, which is simulating a multiplayer drafting website, since Cubecobra is not yet, as of the recording of this video, usable to be able to be multiplayer drafted online. However, this is still a good proof of concept so you guys can see more or less how you can seed your boosters in real life or on Cubecobra if you use it, so that you can see how you don't have to change the contents of your cube. You simply have to go with a little bit of extra work in how you seed your boosters. In this particular case, I'm going to be seeding with drafting with 8 players, since my cube does have the potential to be drafted by 8 players. The rest are just bots. So I'm going to start the draft, just so you can see what I mean. So in this first round, notice that we have the 3 colorless cards in our pack, but we have 2 potential commanders, the 3 mono white cards, 3 mono blue, 3 mono black, 3 mono red, 3 mono green. And then in the next round, instead of having colorless cards, you would have multicolored cards. And then the third round would have, once again, colorless cards. And then the fourth round, multicolored cards, because you don't want too many multicolored cards, because those aren't picked as often depending on what colors the players are going for. So in this particular case, I'll just go through the draft more or less, not throughout the entire process, because you can already see that in the first video, but just so you can see how it's done. Notice also that in this first pack, you can pick 2 cards, just like you would in Commander Legends. In the first video, it's just pick 1, pass. So this also has the advantage of showing you how it would look like if you drafted it, so that you can get an idea of how to, well, build your cube, right? So you can have the choice of obviously picking your commander first and then 1 additional card, in order to not have the player lose or have the risk of not getting the card, even though you can then have the Prismatic Piper, as I mentioned earlier. So I'll probably pick Gahiji, since you have multiple colors there. And then I would go with Renin 7 is a pretty powerful card, but I'm not really playing Reanimator, so I might not go for that. I'll just go for mana value, which is pretty good in a 3-color deck, so I'll probably pick Bloom Tender. And then notice, now that I picked the 2 cards, I'm going now here, and I can choose a different commander if I wanted to. For example, I highly doubt that the first player didn't pick any of these, but since we are drafting with bots, and bots will play obviously a different type, these bots aren't programmed for commander, right? So you wouldn't expect to find these 2. But this is pretty much how it would go. So notice now that if I did say, oh, I'll pick 1, let me just pick, for example, all right, I'll pick Archangel of Thune. That's my only pick. So now it goes to the next pack. And then you can keep going and going and going. For example, if I would have picked Rune instead of the Archangel, I could have picked Bramble Sovereign and have a blinking deck, which probably would have been better. But realistically, you probably would not have seen Rune in the first place. Same here with the Cinematic Phoenix. Someone would have definitely gotten that one. I do have Charizard, you know, for the shits and giggles, so I love this card, so I'll just pick it. So notice also in my online version, I have a lot of very expensive cards, a lot of banned cards, because it's online. You can draft it online, and then you can play it on Cockatrice or wherever you want. Unfortunately, this cube is not playable on Xmage because the database is limited, but at least in Cockatrice 100%, you would be able to play this. So I can choose the Safe Teferi's Protection, and then you can keep going. So let's at least finish with this pack. Atraxa 100%, you're not going to see anyone past that. So let's just continue with this pack, and then we can see how the next pack would come out, so you can have a rough idea of how it would go, right? I'm not going to go through the whole cube because that would take a while. This is a great card, and now I'm regretting not taking advantage of getting Rune, but I'm trying to be a little bit realistic at least. But Stolen Strategy is a good card. I'll pick that. Earl of Squirrel, I love this card. If I'm able to get this again after getting Earl of Squirrel, I'll go for that. And then just notice it's just a matter of, you know, after that picking it and passing. I'll get Mountain Mover. Fortunately, it doesn't have a good scan yet. Now I'm back to here. I'll probably get this one, which will give me another combat phase, or I can get Embercleave. I'll probably just pick this one. Monologue Tax would be good. Yeah, I'll pick this one just to get that mana. I'll get, well, here I have Rune. Well, all right, whatever, I'll pick Rune. Hopefully the fairies are still there. And then I'll keep getting some more mana. So in this case, I have Rune. So I'm not gonna get Wish, even though that would have been a great card. I'll get some more mana. Ether Plasm. Is this one good for Rune? No, because it goes back to your hand. This one's great with Rune. Let's get some removal, or I can Rune blinks other players. Yeah, so I'll have them enter tap with Kismet. That's a pretty decent big brain move there. Get Shamanic Revelation. Fortunately, the fairies were taken, but it's to be expected. It's a really great card in draft like this one, especially the one I designed. All right, so notice now we're at the second pack, and here's where we start seeing the multicolored cards. Notice that half of the packs will have these colorless and half will have multicolor. That's just my preference, because as I mentioned earlier, it's harder for players to really draft any multicolored cards. For example, right now, I can't draft any of these, so because they don't go with any of my decks. So that makes it harder for players. Colorless can go in any decks, so don't make it too easy for players either. So that's why I found a balance of not having as many colorless and multicolored cards as you would have monocolored cards, but that's in building the cube per se. And since I have it drafted this way, the cube also supports the way this is drafted. But again, you can see that if you follow the link to my Cubecobra page, and you can see my decks there. So let's just keep going. I'll get Fast Bond, which is a crazy card. And if I can draw cards off of every land I play, that would be great also. So notice in this particular case, since I've already chosen my commander, which is going to be Rune, I was able to still pick 2 because the first pack you receive, you pick 2 as your first. And now if I were to pick another one, let's say for example, I pick Cunning Wish, or I pick Tradewind Winder, just one pick, and then you pass it along and you keep going. So this is more or less how you can design a cube to be drafted like Commander Legends. So it's just a matter of seeding the booster packs. Now, in order to see how that goes, let me just go here quickly and play test. So the good thing about this is, let me just hit edit here so you can see how it's done. So here, notice that I have the slots seated. So you have the commander, and then depending on the color. So notice here the first pack is going to have those 3 colorless cards, and then the second pack is going to have those multicolored cards. This is exactly how I do it in real life as well. In real life, I have every block of cards separated. Before I prepare the packs, I just shuffle them and then I seed them. So that way, when after the cube is over and you finish playing your games and you're no longer going to use the same deck, I just deconstruct the decks again, and then I separate them by color, I separate them by section, because my cube has 3 sections, and then I put it away after I finish shuffling everything. Then when I'm going to build it again, I shuffle all the piles, so I have a pile of commanders, a pile of white cards, blue cards, black cards, etc. And then I build the packs, and then the final booster, I just take the 160 mana fixing lands, shuffle them up, and then I have 20 card booster packs for each of those. And that's pretty much it. If you haven't already and want to take a gander at the current version of my Commander Cube, you can find links to it in the description, where you can see both the online version of my cube as well as the one I curate in real life. I have way more topics to cover in greater detail and depth for this mini-series, so stay tuned. I would like to thank all my patrons for supporting me, and a quick shout out to all my higher tier patrons, the Brewers, for their patronage. I also want to thank everyone using my TCG Player affiliate link. And to everyone, thanks for watching this episode of Commander Cube Draft on the Commander Tavern. I am the Meta Kirby, and happy drafting.